Hello, my name is Ryan Wickham, and I'd like to welcome you to the third episode of Behind the Scenes with Ryan Wickham. I am the author of this book, Outlaw Principles, which is sold out not only once, not only twice, but three times on Amazon.com. And the extra significance, if you will, to that is the fact that it's been out there for less than 60 days. So I'm incredibly proud of that. Thank you, world, for supporting me and for purchasing Outlaw Principles. Bless each and every one of you, and I do genuinely thank you from the bottom of my heart. On today's episode, as you can see, is my friend Josh. Josh and I go back a number of years. We've worked together on a number of community initiatives that we're quite proud of. We've been good friends for a number of years, and we've always known that we can rely on each other. So we're as brothers get, right? Now, one of the reasons for Josh joining me here today is the fact that I've been asked so many questions on Twitter, on Facebook, on my blog site regarding issues related to the content of the book, but also the story behind the story, so to speak. And we've taken a few of them. We haven't taken all of them, but we will cover each of them as we go through the episodes. But we've taken a few of them here today that Josh is going to ask me, and they're questions that Josh has asked me, but also they're questions, three of the more common questions that I've been asked from my fans. And so I take the time to address those, to let people know that I do read all of your posts. I do read everything that's said to me or asked about, and I want to cover those here today. So Josh, go ahead.
Well, as Ryan said, we go way back, and there are some questions that I think he could be able to clear up for
Absolutely.
the readers and the viewership. I guess maybe the first question we could talk about was your accident and the turning point at which you decided that you needed to write this book.
Well, as we covered in the previous two episodes, I'm somebody who suffers with severe post-traumatic stress disorder. A terrible symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder can be night terrors. Night terrors, for those of you who don't know, are very, very violent dreams. Now, in my night terrors, I see women and children running everywhere, and they're being chased by these violent male offenders who are attempting to kill them, disfigure them, maim them, cause them terrible physical harm. I, for that reason, come out swinging to try and stop these guys. And on a particular night, September 29, 2011, I went through a window. I bled out for an hour and a half with an aortic bleed before help could get to me, and cheated death against all odds. The possibility of surviving bleeding out with an aortic bleed for an hour and a half in such dire need of medical help, not very good odds to say the very least. Survived that, but as I said, I've been rendered disabled with severe hand and arm disabilities, injuries, and that caused me to slip into a very big depression. The pain, and it still remains to this day, horrific. But it wasn't so much the pain that drove it, the depression, as the fact that I gone from being this very able-bodied individual, very successful, very determined, very driven, very independent. And now I was in a state where, yeah, I got these hands, but they're, for the most part, utterly useless. And so I needed to rely on everybody for everything, whether it be rides, dressing, everything. I just felt entirely useless, and that's how I came to see myself. And it got to the point where I decided to kill myself. The depression was that bad. I wanted out of this life in the worst way. I was broken mentally. I was broken physically. I was done. The day I went to commit suicide, I saw my mother and my sister, the two people for whom I lived for that night, my little sister Carly and my mother Carol. And I knew it wasn't fair to them to put this on them, and I knew there was time to get back up and stop making excuses. I needed to get back up, and not only for myself, not only for my family, not only for my friends, but for everybody out there suffering in any situation of destitute, whether it be disability, illness, hardship of any kind, where they're down and out. And I wanted to let them know you can get back up, you can get help, you can be set right again, so to speak, and you can chase after your dreams, and you can actually achieve them, even if your life is at a ground zero sort of state. And proof of that is the fact that I was that guy. And now I'm a published author. I'm a motivational speaker. Outlaw Principles is selling like crazy. All these new opportunities are just exploding in front of me, and I couldn't be happier. So really, the message there, really, I think, is to really push forward regardless of how down and out you seem to be. So I hope that answers that well enough. But
For the next question, that night when you cheated death, you survived, and you wrote this book. Um, the first responders, would you say that they were ill-equipped to deal with your situation?
it's funny you should ask that because I think dealing with somebody, particularly that night, as I may have stated before, I'm over 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds. I got a lot of ink. In addition to that, I had blood everywhere. Like it could make a horror movie look tame in comparison, right? So I don't think that the officers that came in that night are bad people at all. I'm sure their intentions were pure and good, but I think that they were not nearly well as equipped as they should have been to handle a situation like that. And the reason I say that is because even when I told them that, nobody did this to me, it was post-traumatic stress disorder, it was a night terror, they didn't really seem to understand that and didn't jive with them. They actually attempted to handcuff me and only once they realized that my arms were dangling pretty much and the insides were out and the skin was all the way down, bad scene. They realized that it wasn't physically possible that they sort of backed off that angle, but they were very suspicious the whole way through. And you know what? I've seen officers who do an excellent job handling situations like that, and I've seen officers who, in my particular case, could have done a much better job. And I think that they're just more or less victims of a lack of education in that particular area. By education, I don't mean, going to university, going to college. I don't mean that at all. I mean just in terms of specific training. And I think that the world as a whole has a deficit of knowledge regarding these issues because mental illness has this huge stigma, right? So it's not this thing, that's out there as much as it should be. And certainly I'm seeing encouraging signs, which I'm going to get to later on in the show, that's showing that the world is waking up and trying to learn and recover from that. But I definitely think that police forces and, for that matter, the world need to spend more time making sure that all of their officers are better equipped with better knowledge, so to be able to do a better job when dealing with people in situations like mine.
Other first responders as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The medics did a good job. I found that the police were they couldn't understand it quite. I mean, like I said, they just didn't have the training probably, right? So I mean, I'm sure they're great people. Don't have any doubt that they are. But I think that a much better job obviously could have been done. So.
Well, I guess third and final question. What would be the big takeaway from the book for your viewers and the readers?
Well, I mean, Outlaw Principles is it's a biker book, I suppose you could say, about a vigilante and how he uses his power within that power to bring about social justice as a vigilante, like a modern day Robin Hood. And it comes off as very anti-cop. I am, in fact, not anti-cop. In fact, I don't believe in group discrimination. I think that you have to judge each individual by their own individual merits and acts, and also the intentions, because sometimes the act itself might not have come out quite right, but the intention was pure and it was good. So I don't hate cops at all. I don't hate bikers. I'm about the individual. And I think that the biggest message behind Outlaw Principles is that regardless of which side of the law you stand on, regardless of your line of work or your personal social status, whatever the case might be, I think it's always important for us to question our values, to see if they're current, to see if they've evolved with the times. So I'd have to say probably that Outlaw Principles, the biggest takeaway message there is to really look into whatever you're doing. And if you don't like how it's being done, then push for change. So I would have to say that probably be the biggest takeaway message from Outlaw Principles, in my opinion, anyway. I mean, but art's subjective, right? I mean, it's not like you can say this has to be it. I mean, whatever you get out of it is whatever you get out of it, and we're not living in a dictatorship, so certainly whatever your views and your opinions are, you're certainly more than entitled to them. I certainly wouldn't tell somebody no, that's not it, right? So. But now, as mentioned, in regards to mental illness, something very exciting that's going on January 28th is Bell Let's Talk on CTV with Clara Hughes. Good for them. I mean, this is phenomenal. A day's discussion about mental illness, ending the stigma, really ending the ignorance that's out there and educating the world so that we all can become knowledgeable and really have more courage to get out there and get the help that we need. If you are suffering from mental illness, or it can also enlighten people who are related to or connected to or friends with people who do suffer from various mental illnesses. So it's a wonderful thing. And Clara, being the very driven individual that she is, actually isn't stopping with that. In fact, she's going on what's titled Clara's Big Ride, which is essentially, it starts March 14th. She's going to be hitting she's going to be going through, 12,000 kilometers. It's 110 days, and she's hitting 95 communities. So this is just a wonderful thing that's bringing all of the lack of knowledge and education, and it's sort of just like ending all of that. And, for Clara, a 6-time medalist in the Olympics, to take the time to put herself out there and tell the world what she's gone through with mental health issues and depression, and to try her best to end those stigmas and to enlighten and engage. Such a wonderful thing, and it brings a lot of hope in my heart for people like myself and for people of all walks of life who have to deal with these issues, or again are connected personally on these levels with people with mental illnesses. So it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, and congratulations to Bell, congratulations to CTV, and congratulations to Clara Hugh. You are pioneers, you are leaders, and many thanks to you all. That concludes today's episode of Behind the Scenes with Ryan Wickham. Please stay tuned for the next episode. This is like a weekly show, and we'll be discussing, chapters very soon. We'll cover one chapter a show, and I'll kind of discuss what I was thinking about, what the story was about. I'll answer questions regarding those particular individual chapters and other issues as well. I've got another guest who will be on with me. It looks like the date will be February the 1st. Mike Walton, the author of APOC, a must-read, if I must say so myself. It is just an incredibly, epically exciting book. Really hope there's going to be a sequel to that. We'll discuss those issues with Mike and a number of other issues. And again, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.